Leon Alexander here on episode 6 of the Unintentional Podcast. What's so amazing about Bristol musical history is a real melting pot. Traveller culture, Jamaican culture, house culture, incoming students, poshos, ravers, that all came together to create a fantastic melting pot of dance music explosion in Bristol and created what was occasionally called the Bristol Sound. Today I speak to Bristol radio legend Deli G. You may remember him from the days of Bad FM and FTP and Galaxy, and he still has a number of shows going on today. What we're really focusing on today is him growing up in Jamaica and his introduction to sound system culture. And it's a story of his I hadn't heard before. He's a fantastically verbose man. It's got an awful lot to say. I hope you enjoy this as much as I did.
I'm just trying to see if I can find the camera settings on this thing, yeah? Meeting settings. Even though I work for a broadband institution, I'm not the best IT person. I'm just trying to find this damn thing because it did ask me Zoom, mute, start video. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Whee!
There he is.
Here he is, Walker. How you doing?
Look at that. Live and direct. As an age today. Look at that.
Oh, man. Only the grey beards, mate. Don't worry. It's all over. How you keeping?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah.
It's obviously been an interesting ride, but all good. Still here.
Yeah.
What about you? You've been working all the way through, or what have you?
I've been working through, obviously, with a day job now. I've been working right the way through. You know, loads of shows going on, so I'm still active, very active. But amongst this craziness, some goodness has come out of it because I think people are communicating more, obviously via virtual, but they are communicating. People are talking. People are looking within themselves and also looking out as well and really reflecting. Do you know what I mean? Because we've never known it like this, mate. Do you know what I mean? We're like, young hearts run through this part, until the day could break of dawn. You know what I mean? So no. Anyway, I think we're here to talk about back in the day, right?
Well, yeah, we are kind of really. And
how much time have you got? This might have to be part 1, 2, maybe 3.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was the same with Wilkie. It was like we just covered a bit of it, and we'll probably come back and do more. We'll just start somewhere and see where it leads us, really, because. My first memory of you is on Bad
Radio.
Yeah.
The first pirate station in Bristol.
Yeah.
Original pirate station.
If I remember correctly, it went Bad Radio. The difference is we're the best.
Yeah, we had how do we do that? I think, first and foremost, let me give prop to Soul Twin D, Leroy, and Delroy Dixon, because they actually set the radio station up.
Yeah.
They give them their dues. They set the station up. It was very, very very we had a Casio. I remember us having a Casio keyboard player. And I don't know how they triggered a sample, but it had like bad radio.
Yeah.
Original and the best.
That's right.
Things like that. Yeah. It was very stripped down, but it was raw.
Yeah.
It was very
raw. I've got that jingle somewhere. And I'm going to stick it into this recording. Yeah, I'm going to dig it up. I've got it. I've got a couple of shows from ages ago that I've still got on a MP3 somewhere.
The original and the best. Bad Radio.
Yeah, it were those days. That's the 80s. That's when you remembered me. But it really and truly started for me. Jesus, 1970. 74, 76, 74, 75.
Right.
Because it was before I went to move to Jamaica.
Yeah.
I was involved with music in Bristol at a very, very young age, around about 8 years old. I remember going to the Bamboo Club, just to help my uncle out with the sound system. I remember I was always around the sound system.
Yeah.
I remember I used to work in a record shop, even though legally I wasn't, but back then I don't know what legal was.
No,
I just wanted to be around. I just wanted to be around music, and I remember working in a record shop on Stapleton Road in Eastern Bristol, just beside where the church is. in I can't remember what the name of the church is, but on Cyprian Road. I used to work in a record shop there. And it was owned by, it wasn't officially my uncle, but I used to call him my uncle. I need a sound system called Steel Waters, which is the father of Michael Williams and, family and that. And he had a record shop there called Rucker's Hi-Fi. I used to hang out, a friend of mine who's passed away now, what his name was Tony Brown. Me and him used to hang out at Bannerman Road School. I used to bring my dad's Blue Beat records in, and my little, he had a little flip-top record player. I used to charge kids half penny to come and listen to records up in Sterling. Yeah.
Starting early.
Oh yeah, God, yeah. I was a promoter early, mate. Very early. It was half pence. Cause back then, you remember that? We should charge them half pence or a penny to come up and listen to Upsetters, Blue Beat, and all that stuff. But Tony died in Jamaica, God rest his soul. Well, I was out there, but I didn't see him while I was in Jamaica. But I know you heard he died out there. But no, my dad bought me a Philips record player, and this one had 2 speakers on it. So it had like the 4 turntables, all that stuff, and it had 2 speakers clipped on the top. So it was in stereo. And I remember doing my first ever, I used to say, I call it a jokifying gig when I was again, 1975, I was about 8, 9 or whatever, at Bannerman Road School in Easton. Because after the end of the year, they had presentations, and I was the guy in the corner playing the records. And I like to think that, the whole thing with music and DJs today, I remember when nobody wanted to be the guy in the corner playing the records. Everybody wanted to be the guy on the dance floor, because back then, if you could dance, the girls would love you more. But I always wanted to. I always wanted to play records, and that's how that happened. And then I think me and my brother built my first little play sound system. It must have been 1976, because everything in England was up until 77, mid 77, because I went to Jamaica in 77. But we built a little sound system, and we built the bass speakers out of a TV shell. Mm-hmm. The old back in the old school days, the TVs were massive. With the tube stuff in the back, and it had a wood frame around it. And I remember we built it, and we actually built it down. Even though we had the stuff at home, we actually built the speaker at the Felix Road Adventure Playground.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is when the Adventure Playground was I think there's a picture of it around somewhere. Me and a couple of guys. Some of the guys are still alive now, like Lloyd Thomas, who's security now. They're all in the picture. Paul Layton, who's got his own big sound system now, but we built it in a prefab, and the prefab just like a zinc. And we just hang out and play, we build fires in there, we had our dens and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but that's what I built my first sound system. It was just a bass speaker. I can't remember what the top ends were like, but it was just like a little tube amp, little tube amp, and that was it. Yeah.
And how long were you in Jamaica for then when you went in 77?
8 years.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So, but music was something that I know I had to be a part of me when I went to Jamaica. Yeah. Because it as much as it's going on in England, I was just a kid. But then when I moved to Jamaica, it was all around you. It was all, there's nowhere you can go and not hear music.
No, yeah, right, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? And it was it was on a bigger scale, much bigger scale. Because what you got to remember in England, everything was inside,
Yeah.
Everything was closeted in. With Jamaica, it's the weather, they had the weather for us, everything was outside. We moved to Jamaica, and obviously I didn't go to Jamaica because I had to. I didn't go to Jamaica because I wanted to go. It's just a case that my parents want to return back to Jamaica.
Yeah.
So as a kid, I had no say in the matter. But I tell you, Leon, right? I personally think it's one of the best things they've done for me.
Yeah.
I really do, because it opened my eyes to not just a different culture, different way of life, but everything in general. Because obviously, if you know the history of the England and, I have to say England because obviously that's where I was born, and what it was like in the 70s. And I still remember National Front, still remember being chased by National Front down the street. I still remember various things like that, which wasn't very nice. I still remember, I think, watching a lot of the programs on the TV now, watching how things were. I can resonate with it as a kid.
Yeah.
I can really resonate with it as a kid.
I still remember NF being scratched into everything, bus stops.
Yeah.
Telegraph poles, whatever.
If you went into like, the phone box to make a phone call, because there weren't mobiles back then, it'd be marked up in the phone box.
Phone box.
It's all around you, Yeah, but like I said, moving to Jamaica really opened my eyes towards the difference of the two countries. But the whole essence for me with being over there was the music all around me. And it was just such a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing. It's like, take out, the sun, the sweet smell in the air, the fresh food, the whole Jamaica lifestyle was just like, I think the word is paradise. Let's take away the social differences between people and how they live. Just the climate alone.
Yeah.
We as a family, we grew up in a very, very nice house. A very nice house. I have to consider. Let's put it this way: it was much bigger than the one we had in Eve Road in Easton. More land space, more fruit trees. The way our people conducted themselves as Jamaicans, because obviously I stuck out like a sore thumb, i.e. my accent.
Yeah. But
my accent later became a great asset to me within the music business, which we'll come to later. Yeah, it did. Very, very much did. But like I said, I went to school. I think one of my first interactions with a superstar was at a very young age in Jamaica. My mum said to me, when you go to school and you're crossing the road, make sure you cross the road, because it's in England, it's Jamaica. Okay, they don't stop. You understand? So I was like, my school is on a road called Oak Road in Jamaica, which is it's like a main artery that takes you from a place called Halfway Tree all the way to Mona Heights. Right? So I had to take the 70 bus. I had to walk partway from home because I lived in a place called Richmond Park, which is Kingston 10 in Jamaica. I had to take a bus from there and it went all the way up to Oak Road. And one morning I came off at the bus, went to zebra crossing, and as you do, you wait. You follow the green cross crows like we do in England. And this VW bus pulls up with a lot of Rastafarians in there. And the bus pulled up at the zebra crossing. This Rastafarian guy said, "Cross the road, you." And I looked at him. Didn't think nothing of it. I just looked at him and he looked at me and said, "Cross, man, go on, man, cross over." And I looked again, make sure to come. So I crossed over, not thinking about anything. So I went to school. And about 3 o'clock, after 3, when school was out, all I can hear was the kids were saying, "Bob Marley's on the playing field." And I was like, "Bob Marley's on the playing field?" Because obviously I still had my little English. So I ran down, because I went to a very well-to-do school. My school was like a very high-society school. Let's put it this way, the Prime Minister's kid would went to my school in Jamaica, right? And because my grandfather was a businessman in Jamaica, I was like one of 4 to be privileged to go to a school like that. So I ran down with the kids down to this part of the playing field, because we had 2 football fields, 1 tennis court, 1 swimming pool, basketball court. That's how well-to-do the school was. So I ran down to this football field, and there's all these Rastafarians playing keepy-uppy football. And when I looked over, it was Bob Marley. But it was, wow. I pointed to him and said, in my English voice, "That's the man that let me cross the road." Do you know what I mean? But I didn't think nothing of it. And he looked at me and he said, "What, you?" And he kicked the ball over to me. Because what it was is, at our school, at a certain time, the permission, because I didn't realize that Tough Funk studio was just down the road from my school.
Right.
But I used to go past the studio every day. And they had 2 complexes. They had like the one where the famous, where the shooting took place when they tried to kill Bob in the house. And across the road, they had another complex where I think it might have been a studio, but I never went in there. But they had like 2 complexes, one across the road where the house was, where I think him and Rita and that lived, And then they had another place across the road. So the picture where you see him on the hammock and all that, that's on the left-hand side as you got Oak Road. And across the road, they had another complex. But they were playing football on my campus.
Wow.
And that was the only time I actually saw him like eye to eye. But that was a moment.
Yeah,
for me as a young kid,
Yeah,
as a young
definitely.
kid, as a young kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that was the first time I met like a so-called, and even then he wouldn't call himself a superstar. He was just Bob, you know?
Yeah.
So
that's sort of 78, something like that, is it?
Yes, 78.
Yeah. So sort
like
of peak Bob Marley, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I went to Jamaica in August 1977.
Yeah.
And I went to school, but we're talking between like late 77, 78. Because I still, when I saw him at that time, I still had my English accent. Musically, I was like, I hadn't started to really get into the disco side of things just yet, because coming from England, they didn't really play disco like that on the radio. You know what I mean? It was all like the obvious pop stuff, like the Bay City Rollers and Junior Essex?
David Essex.
David Essex, that's a Junior. Yeah. David Essex, yeah. Well, you know, that's right. Well, it was that kind of stuff that, you know, the K-Tel album samplers and all these little mini tracks on there that if you played on your record player too loud, it started feedbacking like crazy. But obviously, we didn't know about 12 inches. But anyway, the 7-inch, the 12-inch didn't come until mid-77 anyway. Do you know what I mean? So, but it was that kind of thing. So going to Jamaica was like, I was very much Bob Marley. Peter Tosh had not gone solely, I don't think. But it was very much about that kind of sound, reggae, Dennis Brown, of course. But then I still remember my dad, back in the 70s when we lived in England, was playing like James Brown, the Hell album, playing Diana Ross and the Supremes, off of the famous Motown Chartbuster albums. Do you know what I mean? So I still had that kind of like raw soul in the house, but at the time not really identifying what it was. What was the difference between rhythm and blues and up-tempo dance? And like again, flipping back to the UK, I couldn't understand why every like other weekend or every month they like have a party and we had to go to bed as kids, but they were playing music downstairs. And obviously later on I learned that obviously they weren't allowed to go to pubs and all that kind of stuff back in the day. So they formed the what's known as the original house party. But no, you know, but Jamaica, again, I go back to that place, we call it the Rock. And if I mention the word the Rock in this chat we have, it's all about Jamaica. My dad was a music person. He loved music. He loved quality equipment. And when we moved to Jamaica, in the shipment, he bought a brand new Philips turntable with a Marantz radio receiver with an integrated amplifier, but it was just a basic equipment. And with the Marantz, it came with 2 speakers which had built-in crossovers. Those things just start to come into play. And believe it or not, that piece of equipment started a sound system in Jamaica with me and my brother. I can't look at it. Going to school, I remember going to school, obviously on the weekend, it was just like, it was a release from going to school. So come weekends, we hear music again. Saturdays, you know, wake up, there's music. And I remember one Saturday afternoon, all I can hear was this bass. And I can use the phrase now because I understand what 60 hertz means, right? But the bass had that sound to it. It was a really deep rumble, but a steady thump. Imagine going to a hospital and hearing like a heart machine going boom, 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 boom. It was that kind of sound. But it didn't have that second boom, which was a boom, 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 boom. And I said to my brother, where's that sound coming from? Where's that sound coming from? And he goes, I don't know. And I said, well, do you think we can go out? Because by now we've started to get that Jamaican bug, you know, getting used to go out on the streets. And we didn't go too far because we're still considered as new to the country. But the music, this bass I heard, is just thump, thump, thump. I said I had to find it. So I left the house, the family house, and I started to walk towards the sound. And as I got closer and closer to the sound, it was about 2-3 streets away. And as I got closer and closer and closer, I can hear this high top end sound. The hi-hats and that coming in. And it sounded really clean, very distinctive, but the bass just got you more and more and more and more. And I can remember as I got to, I knew that I was at the house, but the sound was very distinctive. I could hear the music, I could hear the vocals in the song. The bass was just unbelievable. And it was for something outside, it was unbelievable. Walked around the corner and looked around the fence through the gate. And I remember seeing these Rastafarian guys, right? All nodding their head, just nodding up and down to the sound. And they had the amplifier on the veranda. And they were Rastafarians. And the music that was playing was not reggae. I learned it was disco. And I looked around and I later discovered, obviously when I started to get involved in building the sound system, they used the reel-to-reel as a delay device. So for example, if you listen to, people who listen to like dance stuff and disco stuff and sound system stuff, back in those days, people were being innovative. Mm-hmm. They were being creative. They were using reel-to-reels to give you a delay on the vocals, right? So you hear the sound playing, but it had that instead of having that clap, you have that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And all that kind of stuff came into making dubs with all, Augustus Pablo and all that kind of stuff. But they were using it in playing on the sound systems. And if you look on some of the archive pictures of the Paradise Garage and Ministry of Sound, they've got reel-to-reel.
Yeah.
But when I went in the 70s, I saw that on sound systems in Jamaica, right? Another thing I saw, which I didn't realize, how they got the sound to give it that, to lift the vocals, to make the vocal sound even more distinctive. And what they were doing, they were running the turntables through the springs that they used to use in like Fender or Orange guitars.
That's right.
To give you a reverb sound. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I learned all those things in Jamaica. I'm not saying that it wasn't in England, but I didn't see it.
No.
All that stuff I saw in Jamaica. And I said to my brother, we have to do something for ourselves.
So when did you start building your own sound then?
We started building, by 1979.
Yeah.
That's when what we did, we took my dad, any Jamaican family would know the thing called a blue spot gram. Because most Jamaican families had a blue spot gram. Basically, it was like and that was obviously all in Jamaica, where you had like the turntable with a cabinet, and you had the place where you put your records or you put your drinks, and you had the radio side and little cabinets. So most Jamaican families had one in their house, and that's what they used to play their music on. So obviously, moving to Jamaica, we brought all that stuff with us. But what my brother he was very talented with electronic stuff and building equipment and stuff. And we bought a 12-inch speaker, right? We bought a 12-inch speaker, and I don't know how we came across this fish tank. It had fiberglass, because the fish tanks of water can't leak. And we took this fish tank and we got to make like some plywood to screw on the side so it can hold and then got this plywood and cut the face out and put the 12-inch speaker on it and screwed it in this fish tank to make a bass bin.
Wow.
right? And it had a portal so the bass can come down the bottom. And we used that integrated out to play the bottom end and the Rotel receiver to play one of the Marantz speakers we had with a crossover on it, right? So that's, and then we had the 2 turntables with this piece of, I didn't know it was a mixer, I just knew it went from left to right. Yeah. And that's how we used to blend from one turntable to the next.
To the other, yeah.
Right? And then we started to get parties in like some of the Jamaican bars.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously I was buying records at the time. There was a record shop I used to go to in Jamaica in Arthur Tree Road called, I think it was KG's it was called. There was 3 record shops in close together. There was GG's, I think it was KG's or something. But the one that was famous was one called Aquarius Record Shop. And later on in my my time in Jamaica, I came very good friends with the owner of the record shop, a guy called Erman Chin. And they had a studio around the back. And that's where I met some of the dancehall stars from Leroy Smart, Gregory Isaacs, but that's at a later date. And there was another famous record shop, which is further up, which I later discovered was a one Derek Harriott. I don't know if you know him.
I do know.
Yeah, Derek Harriott. Yeah, he had a big chart success in England with a record. His label was called Chariots of Fire. Anyone that knows about Jamaican culture, Jamaican reggae, they would know Derek Harriott.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, but I used to go there from school with my dinner money and buy records by 7 inches. Yeah, I spent
amazing.
I bet. Yeah. Most guys in our generation, we'd rather buy records than buy our lunch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's how it was.
Much, right.
Yeah, and then going and then add a few records and then managed to get a few. We've got a few bars to do, and also a friend of the family's, who was my elder sister's boyfriend at the time. He knew the circuit because obviously he was Jamaican himself, so he knew, and he got involved with the sound system. But that really started with me and my brother, you know. And there was another guy that lived across the road, a guy called Ryan. He was the one, other than me hearing Jackie Moore, This Time Baby, that sound system, because he was a little bit older than I was, and he went to a different school. Again, he used to buy a lot of records. He used to buy a lot of albums. He'd buy a lot of albums. And that's the first time I saw Detroit Spinners album. I saw Dionne Warwick album. Anita Ward, Ring My Bell album. Yeah, you know, KT Connection, loads of different albums with loads of tracks on there. And you hear the difference between like the down-tempo tracks to the up-tempo tracks. You know, I have to give Ryan credit for that because he actually opened my eyes to those things. There was another guy that played an important part of my life in Jamaica, a guy called Winston, but we used to call him Garling. And the reason why we used to call him Garling was because he was tall and lanky and he walked the way he walked, like a bird. But he opened my eyes to obscure records, really obscure, you know, salsa, disco. And even then, I didn't really know about the likes of Larry Levan. I didn't really know about Larry. The guy who was my Larry Levan was a guy called Al Plummer. He played on a station called RJR. Yeah. And come to think about it now, it's the first time I heard I heard record mixed together. Yeah. But then getting involved with the whole music thing, all the mixing thing, I saw that in Jamaica before I come to England, way before I came to England. Yeah, you know, that the whole thing with obviously the likes of, because in my days, Techniques, when I first started in the 70s, there was no Techniques 1200s. It was like basically, you know what I mean? You know, because I didn't know about Thorns, turntables. I just knew that I was playing a turntable, went round and round and round. And obviously later on, as technology moved on, things start creeping up. You know, I used to hang out with I used to still hang out with the dancehall, with the rubber dub sound system. They didn't really call them dancehall sound system. It was rubber dub sound systems back then, as far as I can remember. But one of the parties I remember going to, and I saw dancehall to the full, is the night when I went to Ray Symbolic versus Prince Jammins. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But that night it was a dance lawn called OK Ram Jam on the corner of Walton Park Road and Hagley Park Road. It was on the corner, and Jamaicans will know that road to take you down to 3 Mile, right? I remember going to the party, and obviously I come from class like Midtown stroke Uptown, yeah?
Yeah.
But I'm now downtown, right? Where all the bad boys are.
Mm-hmm.
We're all, if you look too hard, you have to say, oh, you look fancy.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, you know what I mean? And I remember walking up to the gate, and the man said to me, oh, yo. And I said, I'm with Ray Symbolic Sound System. And then he just said, no, you can't come in at this, you. It's a big dance. You can't. All I can remember, right? You have to excuse how I say it, because I have to say it the way it was said.
Yeah.
All I heard, man, said, let you in the yo. That's all I heard, let you in the yo. Right? And it's this guy, a lot of Jamaicans as well would know this guy. It was a guy called Ox. Bad boy policeman. You don't mess with him. You understand what I mean? He's do you know if you know about Jamaican culture and how things run, you got certain guys over there, they have status. You know what I mean? You don't mess with those guys. At the same time, so you have to careful how you call their name. Because if you call their name in the wrong place, you're in trouble. You understand? Right? And I walked in. I felt so good, Leon, right? I had to walk back out, go to the cane cap, buy a cane, because we back in the day used to chew on the cane, you know what I mean? And walk back in the dance. Because I know that the gate man couldn't mess with me. You understand? Because Gilly Priest said, I'm a part of the sound system. So I felt so good with myself, so like, I was kind of like I was a don.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I walked out, went to the cane cart, bought a cane, and walked back in the dance with it. And on that night, I remember, I don't know if you remember a record Ranking Joe did called 10 Against 1.
Okay.
He released a record called 10 Against 1. But that was the night he did that record. And the reason why he actually did that record live on the sound system, because it was Ranking Joe alone. And he was up against a studio, because Prince Jammins is a studio. So they had Nicodemus, they had Jamaica, they had Mama Nancy, they had a very young Eka Mouse, right? A very young Yellow Man. Yeah? Because they were a studio, Jammins had the studio, so he had the artists. You know what I mean? I remember I can't remember, it was Errol Dunkley or singing Black Cinderella. And also as well in that scenario, you have to understand you're going to hear a lot of gunshot going on. Do you know what I mean? Because the music's hot. It's dancehall, you know? And I saw it run. And Ranking Joe alone stood at sound system all night and took the place apart. You know what I mean? And I think back then, Jammins was still using tube amplifier and Ray Symbolic was using transistorized amplifier. They were using an amplifier called Crown Analyzer, a big transistorized amplifier. But yeah, I got baptism into the dancehall thing big time. You know what I'm saying?
So by the time you got back to Bristol, you'd had a proper schooling.
Dude, listen to me. Right, okay. I went to Sugar Minor's house on Chisholm Avenue, 82 Chisholm Avenue, when he set up a sound called Youth Man Promotion. And because Sugar's an artist, he had all of the young artists coming through. And then they had a sound system called Volcano. You know what I'm saying? I remember when GT come with General Trees, right? I'm building my sound system now, but my sound system will play everything. So I play calypso, I'll play disco. As boogie start to creep in, I'd play reggae. I did sound clashes. I had a sound clash with a famous sound system called, well, this is the irony. I did a sound clash with a sound system called Love Injection in Jamaica, right? But Love Injection was the sister sound of the big sound called Gemini. And if you know, if people who listen know about sound system, they know where I'm coming from. So by now, we've built the sound system from a little box playing in little bars to now we're fully pledged doing. I used to do a lot of high school fetes, meaning like St. Hugh's Fete, Ola Childhood Fete. We used to play at a place called NCB Sports Club, which basically was a National Commercial Bank sports club. And they would hire out the venue and we'd bring a sound system. We realized that the sound system had to have power. Do you know what I'm saying? Power. None of this little Mickey Mouse business. From the time we started and we built ourselves, we ended up with something like 8 to 10 double 18 speakers. Bullet tweeters line off because we used to save up the money, and when my dad sent money, we'd save it up and then send the people that went to Caymans and had to do a thing called farm work and get paid in American dollars. We used to then buy the dollars from them and then send to get the equipment from America. Mm-hmm. So we end up with power amps and the whole 9 yards. You know what I mean? Yeah. But then saying that, like I said, the whole sound system thing, we did two sound system in the lawn with a sound called Love Injection in a place called Montgomery Avenue. And the guys came. By now we had so imagine, right, you got 2 double 18 standing 6 foot by 4, right? And you got 8 of those, yeah? And instead of them put them upright, we put them on their sides to make because then you make the 4 foot turn to 6. So it's wider. And then put the other bass box on top and then put the top end on top, right? With Celestian speakers, because anyone that knows about that, Celestian speakers give you a better sound. It softens the vocals as opposed to horns. Mm-hmm. Harsh. Yeah. You see what I mean? So basically, you had, and it was like a freeway. So you had bottom, mids, and highs, yeah? The guys for Love Injection came around because we lived pretty close to where the dance was. We went there early and found our spots for speakers, right? The guys came and looked to see where they were going to put. They sent somebody in a car just to look on the lawn and see how they were going to position their speakers. By the time they got there, we took the 4 corners of the lawn. So you had a set one there, one in the left, one in the right, one in the left, one in the right. So we cornered off the whole. So technically, the whole thing was surrounded. And what they did, right? They went to the Gemini, because Gemini's boxes were different from Love Injection boxes. But because it was owned by one person, because Gemini had quads, they had 4 18s in one box. That's how big they were. They're huge. So what they did, because they couldn't corner off like how we cornered off, they sent for 4 of the quads. Right? 4 of the quads. So imagine you got one quad box with 8 18s with another one beside it, right? So that was their way of getting around the sound. They just put one at the left, one at the right. They sounded heavy, bro. They sounded heavy, man. Because you got to remember, back in those days, not only that you had to have the music, your sound had to be on point.
Yeah.
Your sound had to be no matter, and if you notice, like with Carnival in various places, the sound system, they all like try to top each other, sound wise. Yeah. But we didn't have that clash where you play over each other. It was just about when you turned on, you knew you were on. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that old scenario with that, and then obviously in Jamaica they had other sound systems other than the dancehall sound system I was involved with. As friends, just to see how they build. There was another side. There was a sound system called Plus X Aggravation, Crystal, which was the son of the same guy I told you, Derek Harriott, at the record shop. They had a sound system. Disco Sensation. Oh, by the way, my sound system was called Lovebird. We named it after the Air Jamaica. Mm-hmm. Anyone knows that Air Jamaica, it was the hummingbird, the logo.
Yeah.
We almost got sued. We almost got sued for that. You know why? Yeah, we almost got sued. We didn't know about trademark, did we?
No.
We didn't know about trademark. Basically, we had a stencil made with the hummingbird that was on the side. But so we had the hummingbird, and we used the same orangey yellow color. Yeah, we had the bird in orange, and we had the circle in orange. But that was the same color for Air Jamaica.
Yeah.
But we didn't know that. We didn't know about trademark, and we got pulled up on it, and we had to change. We had to change the circle to a heart to get round it and change the coloring as well. I think we changed it to blue. Keep the bird yellow, but the art was in blue.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then, you know, we got to start to play places like a place called Tropics, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
There is a Tropics in Jamaica, a place called Dumfries Road in New Kingston. And, you know, it was set, if you imagine like you walk into a place and it's like, it's all outside, but it's like tropical. So you got fruit trees and plants everywhere, but the dance floor, and you can look up and see the stars, and the sound system is pumping.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as you walk through, you can see like a garden scenery, and as you look down straight towards you, you can see the speaker boxes lined off. Do you know what I mean? And the pump, you know, it was, and I went there and I remember seeing a guy called Squeeze. He was like the first DJ I saw mixing live with free techniques.
Mm-hmm.
Blew my mind. Mind you, I'm not a mixing DJ. I was just playing music.
Yeah.
What's known as the famous word as segue.
Yeah.
One to the next. But that also taught me about programming music. You know what I mean? And I think sound system is that also taught me about programming, because one famous part I remember, I was doing a sound clash with a sound system called Soul Convention. And I remember we're set up in the lawn, and I can't remember, it was my house, because believe it or not, I did do parties at my house, but the parties were inside the house. It was outside in the yard, because it's that big. And I remember my brother coming up to me, and there was a tune by a guy called Tony Tuff. It had the lyrics saying, "I saw you down the lane, girl." And I remember my brother saying to me, "Yo, G, how they play that record so early?" Because it was only like, they played that record in their segment of their playing was about 12:30, 1 o'clock. And by now I'm like, you know, my Jamaica partners are, I'm saying, listen, don't worry yourself. Well, I'll play about the record, but I'll play it when the people them don't have them juice and them smoke them weed and them feel good. You know what I mean? And I must have played the same record back about 3 a.m. But I had an MC, a guy called Shaka Indian. He just to put a picture on Shaka Indian, he's been to England and he's performed. He was like another version of Supercat, because he's Indian, but in Jamaica we call him Coolie. Do you know what I mean? And he was very, you know, he still, when I went to Jamaica last, he was there, you know, he said, "Oh, things, music and right. But yeah, he came on the mic and he started to MC and do some sweet lyrics. It was very, very sweet lyrics. You know what I mean? And the part, I never heard so much gunshot in all my life, bro. It was like, and then I used to play like certain Eptones records, Eptones, Studio One, certain time of the morning, you know what I mean? And also subject to what kind of parties we're doing. If we're doing like a sound system clash, we kept it more dance, or where if we're doing a party like a high society party where they want a bit of soul, we had to play Reasons by Earth, Wind and Fire. We had to play Taxi, Take Me to the Time, Champagne, About Us. We used to play Foreigner, I Want to Know Where Love Is. You know what I'm saying? So music, and to me, songs were, and to me, songs will always be the pinnacle. A good song will always be a pinnacle part of my set, because back then, girls love songs. They love songs. And then if you got girls coming to your party, you know what it's like. Guys are there, bro.
Totally.
Standard. You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? So it was just like that. And like I said, I remember I wasn't mixing, but I remember listening to I used to listen to Al Plummer on RJR. Again, it wasn't about me. I never thought about being a radio DJ. Far from it. Even though I got my name from a famous radio DJ in Jamaica, right? And I'll come on to that. But Al Plummer, I used to listen to him every Saturday without fail, 7:00. RJR, Al Plummer's mix show. I didn't know Al was Jamaican, American, or what. All I knew, he was mixing some hot tunes. He was playing Leroy Burgess. I didn't know who Leroy Burgess was. All I know is the songs. He was playing Francina Jolly, Gotta Get Over You. I didn't know who the hell that was. I tried to buy the record. I couldn't buy it because in Jamaica, they didn't import a lot of Americans because of the strength of the American dollars to the pound. So basically, I ended up recording. I ended up having a friend who had it, recording it on a metal tape, not a normal tape, a metal tape, because you can get the high quality. And you remember the term Dolby?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So you can take out the hiss. Because you're playing with highs and bullets, you want to take the hiss out of that sound. So you put on the Dolby to cut out the hiss, but you're playing those records on cassettes. I used to mix it up. When I say mix, I used to play it from a cassette. I love the record so much. I remember playing Found a Cure, Ashford and Simpson, off a cassette because I couldn't buy the 12-inch. Oh, I got it now. But you know what I'm saying? But that's how it was. And I used to listen to Al Plummer religiously every Saturday. I listened to him so much. Have you ever heard of the phrase, listen beyond the groove?
Yeah.
Or in the groove?
Yeah.
That's how much I was into him. I can tell if that show is repeated. And that later in my radio career, now people say, how comes when I listen to your show, I never heard you play a record the same way? But you know why? It's because I remember myself as a kid listening to Al Plummer. And if somebody was like me, listening to me, they go, he done it already. He done that already. Do you know what I'm saying? So I would always, even if I played a song that you've heard before, I would always use the word reconstruct, play in a different manner, enter a different way, coming from the break, probably loop the break. And that's why, even to this day, my rewind shows I do, people listen to it and go, I remember that record. I never remember it like that. Because what it is, Leon, when I do a show, I always remember myself listening to Al Plummer. So I kind of like, how can I put it? I'm listening into myself.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Totally.
So that's how it was. And then, I remember I'm going to New Kingston, and they had a song called Plus X playing in New Kingston. And trust me, dude, I'm talking about heavyweight business. All these sounds I'm talking about, they played a part of music culture, sound system culture, dancehall sound culture, disco culture in Jamaica. There's a sound system called Plus X Aggravation in New Kingston. We all went up there. It was like a street jam, right? They were playing the sound, and it was pumped up because they were all out disco, straight out disco, boom, 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 and they're dropping the jams, and they were playing, and they were mixing hot. And I remember the police came along and told him to turn the sound system down, right? And basically the guy came on the mic and he was like, well, we've got to turn the sound system down because we're disturbing the making of the film Countryman. Do you remember that movie? Mm-hmm. Yeah. They were filming a section in Kingston outside Skateland, right? Now, if I can put a distance on this to show you how far they were. Imagine being at the Plough in Easton, right?
Yeah.
And you're standing at the Inkerman in St. Paul's.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's a distance, right?
Wow.
That's a fair distance, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not that they can hear the sound system clear at the Inkerman, but because they're filming, the mics were picking up the sound from that distance. That's how much they were pumping, dude. You know what I'm saying?
That's crazy.
It's crazy. I'm telling you, bruv. It was crazy. They were filming children. Not children. They were filming Countryman outside Skateland, and they picked it up. That's how heavy the sound system was. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. I remember being at my house, because where my house was, the famous Skateland with Skendon, all the dons up there up in Skateland. I can stay at my house in Richmond Park and hear when they put the mic on the table.
Crazy.
I can hear it. Yeah. Because what you got to remember, at night, the sound travels more.
Yeah. Totally.
I mean, listen, you know what? This is just part one, man. I'm sure we're going to have part two. We might even squeeze a part three. I got to say, I got to send a big shout to Wilkie, Mike Shaw.
Yes.
You know, obviously Marty, you know, the whole Lakota crew, the guys from back in the day.
Yes.
That made the city what it is now, because people think that some people think that the city just started in 2000. Come on.
Nah,
bruv. Nah. Don't even think about it. So, you know, you got all these guys now doing a thing. You know what I'm saying? I think I passed the story down to my nephew and my son. They know what's up. You know, I got send a big shout out to Blazy and the crew, because they want to know too. There is a rich history in Bristol. You know what I mean? I mean, I got to thank my mom and dad for that too. You know what I'm saying, but Leon, it's a pleasure, man. Thank you.
Definitely, man. It's an absolute delight, Deli. Really is delightful to see you, man. 30 years or whatever it is. 40, 88, I think I met you first, whatever that is. So
that's right. And the radio show. Well, I won't talk how long the radio show has been for, well over 3 decades now. And there's loads of other things where dude, we'll come to that.
Yeah.
Because then when I was off, people didn't realize where I was until I come back now, and I'm still on now with 2 shows. So listen, dude, whatever you do, I hope the people that listen to this podcast get a real insight of what. And you know what?
Yeah, I hope so too. That's sort of the point. Yeah.
I think it'd be nice. And I'm gonna open the mic to my man Grant. Welcome on board. Come say something to the people, dog, because we need to know. Because he was there. My man Willie Wee got mad love for that guy. Mad love, because when people didn't want to book me in Bristol to play, Willie Wee booked me to play with Simon DK from DIY on the Lock Hill, which is no more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big up to Willie Wee. Dude,
yeah.
Look, anyway, you know what? Let's shut it down, because, you know, we can get real dark.
All right.
You know what I mean? Yo, bro. Oh my God. Willie Wee, love you, man. Love Bristol crew, all the best, man. Listen, you take care. Part 1, look up part 2 coming soon. All right?
See you later, brother.
Yeah, man. Bye-bye.
The big difference is